My hands are cramping around this clipboard, and I can't make myself sign the dispatch order. It's 04:47 hours, September 12th, 1944. I'm standing in what used to be a French schoolhouse, now our dispatch center, and I'm watching Major Henderson wait for my signature on a convoy manifest that's going to kill 37 men. I know it's 37 because I've done this math 43 times in the last 6 weeks. Convoy size, 40 trucks. Spacing, regulation, 50 yards. Total column length, just under 1.25 miles. Travel time on Highway 19, 4 hours and 20 minutes. Luftwaffe response time when they spot that kind of target, 8 to 12 minutes. Number of trucks that burn before the column can scatter, 30 to 40%. 30 to 40% of 40 trucks, 12 to 16 vehicles. Each truck carries 2 men. Do the arithmetic. The major is looking at me like I've forgotten how to write my own name. Maybe I have. I've signed 68 of these manifests since we started the Red Ball Express on August 25th. I know because I keep a notebook. Not officially, just I count things now. I count the trucks that leave. I count the trucks that come back. I count the difference. The difference keeps getting larger. Sergeant Kowalski, Henderson says, and his voice has that edge that means he's noticed I've been standing here for 45 seconds without moving. Is there a problem? There are so many problems, I don't know where to start. But you don't tell a major that, so I say, "No, sir," and I sign the manifest, and I watch him walk away with a document that's going to burn good men alive, and I taste bile in my mouth. My hand is shaking, not from fear. I got over fear somewhere between Normandy and here. It's shaking because I'm angry, and I don't have anywhere to put that anger except into this clipboard that I'm gripping hard enough to crack. I'm 26 years old. Before the war, I drove a delivery truck for my uncle's furniture company in Pittsburgh. 3 years ago, I thought the hardest part of logistics was finding parking on Penn Avenue during lunch rush. Now I'm responsible for routing 132 trucks a day through 400 miles of French countryside, while the Luftwaffe tries to turn them into bonfires. And I've figured something out that I'm not supposed to figure out. The doctrine is wrong. Everything they taught us at Fort Lee about convoy operations, every regulation in the quartermaster manual about truck spacing and column integrity, all of it is designed for a war that doesn't exist anymore. It's designed for a war where you protect convoys with air superiority and overwhelming force. But we don't have air superiority over every mile of French highway. We have P-47s that patrol when they can, and Messerschmitts that attack when we're exposed. And the doctrine that's supposed to keep our drivers safe is actually painting targets. I know this because I'm good at patterns. That's why they made me a dispatcher. Before the furniture business, I worked in a warehouse, and I was the guy who could tell you where every item was without checking the manifest. I see systems, I see inefficiencies, and right now, I see men dying because nobody's willing to question a manual that was written in 1941. The problem is mathematical. A regulation convoy, 40 trucks at 50-yard spacing, creates a column over a mile long. A mile-long column of identical vehicles moving at identical speeds is exactly what a Luftwaffe pilot dreams about. You don't even have to aim carefully. You just strafe the length of the column and something will burn. Probably a lot of somethings because we're hauling gasoline and ammunition, and both of those things like to explode. I've watched it happen 9 times. 9 times in 6 weeks, I've sent out convoys in perfect doctrinal formation, and 9 times I've counted the burned-out hulks when the survivors limp back. The first time, I thought it was bad luck. The second time, I started paying attention. By the 5th time, I was keeping detailed notes. By the 9th time, I'd done enough math to know exactly what the problem was. The solution is obvious. Stop bunching the trucks. Disperse them. Send them out in pairs or threes with irregular spacing. 10 minutes between groups, 15 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever breaks the pattern. Make them impossible to predict. Make them impossible to target effectively. But that's not doctrine. That violates every principle of convoy integrity in the manual. And I'm a sergeant. Sergeants don't rewrite doctrine. Sergeants sign manifests and shut up. Except I can't shut up anymore because I'm tired of counting bodies. The schoolhouse smells like old chalk and new coffee. There are maps covering every wall. Highway 19 from Saint-Lô to Chartres. Secondary routes through Alençon. Backup paths through Mortagne. I know every kilometre of every road because I've routed 4,781 trucks through them since August 25th. That's not an estimate. That's the exact number from my logs. 4,781 trucks dispatched. 4,563 trucks returned. 218 trucks lost. The official reports call them operational losses to enemy action. I call them what they are, preventable deaths caused by tactical stupidity. I'm standing at the dispatch desk, and I can feel the weight of the manifest I just signed like it's made of lead instead of paper. Outside, I can hear the rumble of GMC engines warming up. 40 trucks getting ready to roll at 0500 hours. 40 trucks that will form up in perfect parade ground spacing and drive north toward Chartres, in a formation so neat you could use it for a training film. Perfect. Neat. Target. I look at my watch. 0451 hours. 9 minutes until they roll. 9 minutes to do something I've been thinking about for 3 weeks and haven't had the courage to attempt. I walk to the door and look out at the motor pool. The trucks are lined up in 4 neat rows of 10. Their canvas covers tan in the pre-dawn light. Drivers are doing final checks. Tires, oil, fuel, everything by the book, everything regulation, everything exactly like the last 43 convoys I've dispatched. My heartbeat is doing something irregular in my chest. Not fear. Not anymore. This is decision. This is the moment where I either stay a good sergeant who follows orders, or I become something else. I become someone who counts. I've been in France for 107 days. I've dispatched trucks for 46 of those days. I've watched doctrine kill men for all 46 of those days, and I'm done watching. I step outside. The air is cool. September in Normandy still has that edge of early autumn, that smell of wet earth and dying leaves. The trucks idle in formation, and I can see Lieutenant Morrison walking the line, doing his pre-departure inspection. Morrison is 23 years old and fresh from Fort Lee, which means he knows doctrine perfectly and reality not at all. I need to talk to someone who knows both. Captain James Cartwright is drinking coffee from a canteen cup when I find him behind the supply tent. He's 41 years old, ancient by army standards, and before the war he ran a trucking company in Ohio. He knows logistics the way I know patterns, which is to say he knows it in his bones, not from a manual. Captain, I say, and my voice sounds steadier than I feel. I need to talk to you about the convoy spacing. He looks at me over the rim of his cup. His eyes are red-rimmed from too many 18-hour days, but they're sharp. The 0500 convoy? Yes, sir. And every convoy after it. We follow doctrine, Sergeant. You know that. The doctrine is killing our drivers, sir. There's a long silence. Somewhere behind us, a truck engine coughs and catches. Cartwright takes a slow sip of his coffee, and I can see him calculating something. Not whether I'm right. I can tell he already knows I'm right. He's calculating whether he can afford to act on it. You've been keeping numbers, he says. It's not a question. Yes, sir. Show me. I pull out my notebook. It's a standard issue field memo book, and I've filled 43 pages with data. Convoy number, departure time, route, size, spacing, enemy contact, losses, return time. I've been documenting everything for 6 weeks, and the pattern is so clear, it makes my teeth hurt. Cartwright reads in silence. I watch his jaw tighten with each page. 218 trucks, he says finally. 436 men, sir, assuming 2 per vehicle. Some convoys had 3. You think dispersed spacing would prevent this? I think it would make us impossible to target effectively, sir. A Messerschmitt can strafe a mile-long column in one pass, but scattered trucks, separated by irregular intervals. He'd have to hunt each one individually. He'd burn too much fuel and expose himself to ground fire for too long. The math doesn't work for him anymore. Cartwright is quiet for 30 seconds. I count them. Then he says, "You know what happens if you're wrong." "Same thing that happens if I'm right, but do nothing, sir. Men die." "No." He's looking at me hard now. "If you're wrong, and we break doctrine based on your theory, men die, and it's our fault. That's different. That's court-martial different." I meet his eyes. "With respect, sir, men are dying now, and it's already our fault. We're just following orders, so nobody blames us." Another silence. Longer this time. I can hear Morrison calling out the convoy order at the motor pool. 2 minutes until they roll. "What's your proposal?" Cartwright asks. "Let me break them up." Instead of 40 trucks in one column, I send out pairs. 5-minute intervals between each pair. Randomized. One pair might wait 8 minutes. The next might wait 3. No pattern. No predictable spacing. No targetable column. You're talking about violating direct doctrine from SHAEF. I'm talking about keeping drivers alive, sir. He drains his coffee, sets down the cup, looks at the notebook again. "You have numbers that support this." "I have numbers that prove what we're doing now doesn't work." "That's not the same thing. It's close enough when men are burning, sir." The words come out harder than I intend, but I don't take them back. Cartwright studies me, and I can see him making the same calculation I made 10 minutes ago. Stay safe or do what's right. Follow doctrine or follow math. One convoy, he says. The 0500 departure, you route it your way, dispersed pairs, irregular spacing. If it works better than expected, if we get fewer losses than the average, we'll discuss expanding it. And if it works worse, then you'd better hope I'm a good lawyer, Sergeant, because we're both going to need one. I should feel relief. Instead, I feel the weight of 40 trucks and 80 men settling onto my shoulders like a physical thing. This isn't theoretical anymore. This is real. This is me taking men's lives into my hands and hoping my math is better than the Luftwaffe's aim. "Yes, sir," I say. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet," Cartwright says. "Go route your convoy. And Kowalski, keep counting. I want numbers on everything. I'm already counting. I've never stopped." 0502 hours, breaking doctrine. I run back to the dispatch center. Lieutenant Morrison is waiting with the manifests, looking confused because the trucks should have already rolled. "Change of plans," I tell him. "We're modifying the spacing." "What?" "Captain's orders. We're sending them out in pairs instead of one column. You'll take the first pair out at 5:05, second pair at 5:13, third pair at 5:18. Morrison's face goes through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, concern, calculation. That's not standard procedure. I know. The manual specifies. I know what the manual specifies, Lieutenant. Captain Cartwright approved the modification. You want to argue with him, you're welcome to. But those trucks need to roll in 3 minutes. And I need you in the lead vehicle. He stares at me. I can see him trying to decide if I'm lying about Cartwright's approval. But I'm holding the clipboard with the captain's signature on it, and that settles the question. "What's the interval timing?" he asks. I hand him a sheet with the full routing schedule. 20 pairs of trucks, departure intervals ranging from 3 to 15 minutes. No pattern, no predictability. I spent 40 minutes yesterday working out the sequencing, and another 30 minutes this morning adjusting for road conditions and fuel loads. Morrison reads it twice. "This is unconventional." "Yes, sir. If this goes wrong, then it goes wrong. But if it goes right, we save lives. He looks at me for a long moment. Then he nods once and walks out to brief the drivers. I watch through the window as he gathers them around the lead truck. I can't hear what he's saying, but I can see their reactions. Confusion. Questions. More than a few skeptical looks in the direction of the dispatch center. These men have been running convoys for 6 weeks using standard procedure. Now some sergeant they barely know is rewriting the rules. But they're soldiers, so they adapt. Within 5 minutes, the formation has broken up. Instead of 40 trucks in neat rows, there are 20 pairs scattered around the motor pool in no particular order. It looks chaotic. It looks wrong. It looks like it might actually work. 05:05 hours. First pair rolls out. Morrison in the lead truck, Corporal Jenkins behind him. They head north on Highway 19, and I watch until their taillights disappear into the pre-dawn grey. I mark the time in my notebook, 05:05:14. 8 minutes until the next pair. I spend those 8 minutes doing math that I've already done 100 times. Average Luftwaffe patrol pattern. 30-minute sweeps over the highway corridor. Average engagement window. 8 to 12 minutes from initial spotting to attack. If we send trucks in tight convoys, the Luftwaffe spots a mile-long column and has plenty of time to set up an attack run. But if we send trucks in scattered pairs with irregular spacing, the Luftwaffe spots. What? 2 trucks. Maybe 3. By the time they circle back for another pass, those trucks are gone and the next pair hasn't arrived yet. It's sound theory. I've run the numbers. But theory doesn't keep you warm when you're waiting to find out if you just killed men with your clever idea. 05:13:27. Second pair rolls out. Private Daniels and Private First Class Washington, both from Georgia, both 20 years old. Both writing letters home yesterday that I watched them seal and drop in the outgoing mailbag. I mark the time. 5 minutes until the next pair. The dispatch center is quiet, except for the scratch of my pencil and the tick of the clock on the wall. Sergeant Miller is working the radio desk, monitoring traffic from yesterday's convoys. Everything is routine. Everything is normal. Except that I've just violated doctrine, and if this goes wrong, I'll spend the rest of the war in Leavenworth. Assuming I survive the war. 05:18:09. Third pair rolls out. 05:21:43. Fourth pair. 05:27:16. Fifth pair. I'm marking times with mechanical precision, and I realize I'm falling into that state I get into when things are serious. Everything becomes data. Every truck is a number. Every minute is a calculation. It's the only way I can function when the stakes are this high. Turn men into statistics and hope the statistics turn out better than the reality I've been seeing. By 0600 hours, all 20 pairs are on the road. 40 trucks spread across Highway 19 in no particular formation. Some pairs are 6 minutes behind the pair ahead. Some are 12 minutes behind. There's no pattern because I deliberately didn't create one. Now I wait. Waiting is harder than dispatching. When I'm routing convoys, I'm doing something. I'm solving problems. I'm making decisions. But waiting means sitting in this schoolhouse with bad coffee and worse thoughts, listening to the radio and hoping I don't hear the call that means someone's burning. Miller is monitoring 3 frequencies: the main convoy channel, the air cover coordination channel, and the emergency frequency. Most of the morning it's quiet. Check-ins from convoy pairs reporting positions, weather updates, traffic conditions, all routine. 06:47 hours. First pair reports passing through Mortain. No contact. 07:01 hours. Third pair reports clear through the Alençon checkpoint. 07:19 hours. Seventh pair reports possible aircraft sighting. Negative on engagement. Each check-in is a small relief, but I can't relax because there are still 32 trucks on the road and the Luftwaffe doesn't operate on a schedule. Captain Cartwright comes in at 07:30. He doesn't say anything, just pours himself coffee and sits at the map table, studying the routing markers I've been updating as reports come in. He's doing the same math I am, calculating exposure time, estimating risk windows, counting the minutes until the last truck clears the danger zone. "How's it looking?" he asks without looking up. "Better than average, sir. We're 90 minutes in and no enemy contact. Standard convoys usually report contact within the first hour." "Usually doesn't mean always." "No, sir." He sips his coffee, studies the map some more. "You understand that if this works, you're going to have to do it again. And again. And every time, you'll be gambling that your math holds up." "Yes, sir." "And if it fails even once?" "I know, sir." He looks at me then, really looks at me, the way you look at someone when you're trying to decide if they can handle what you're about to give them. I'm not talking about the court-martial, Sergeant. I'm talking about living with it, knowing that you changed procedure and men died because of it. I think about the 218 trucks I've already lost, the 436 men, the manifests I've signed and the convoys that didn't come back. I'm already living with it. The only difference is, now I'm trying to do something about it instead of just counting bodies. "I'm already living with it, sir," I say. "This way, at least I'm trying." He nods slowly, sets down his coffee. "Keep me updated. 08:23 hours, 9th pair reports passing Chartres. Mission complete." They're turning around to head back. 08:41 hours, 11th pair reports mission complete. 08:56 hours, 13th pair reports. Static. My hand freezes on the pencil. Miller is leaning into the radio, adjusting frequency. "Say again, Baker 7. Repeat your traffic. More static." Then, "Contact. 2 aircraft. Taking evasive." The transmission cuts off. Cartwright is standing before I realize he's moved. "What pair is that?" I'm already checking my log. 13th pair. Privates Coleman and Martinez. They were running 8 minutes behind the 12th pair. Position? Should be approximately 10 kilometers north of Mortain, heading back south. The radio crackles. All units, Baker 7 reporting enemy air, 2 Messerschmitts heading north on Highway 19, approximately..." The transmission breaks up in static and engine noise. My heart is hammering, but my hand is steady as I mark the log. Enemy contact, 08:56 hours. Baker 7, pair 13, 2 aircraft. This is it. This is where I find out if my theory holds. Standard convoy formation, 40 trucks in a mile-long column, would be completely exposed right now. The Messerschmitts would have a shooting gallery. They'd strafe the length of the convoy and light up truck after truck, and by the time the survivors scattered, there'd be a dozen vehicles burning. But we don't have a mile-long column. We have 2 trucks, just 2. Separated from the pair ahead of them by 8 minutes, and the pair behind them by 11 minutes. The Messerschmitts found 1 pair, but what can they actually hit? 08:58 hours. Radio crackles again. Baker 7 to dispatch, we're off the road taking cover in tree line, aircraft circling. Miller keys the mic. "Copy Baker 7, air cover en route, maintain cover." I'm watching the map, calculating. The 12th pair, Baker 6, should be 15 kilometers south of Baker 7's position. The 14th pair, Baker 8, should be 19 kilometers north. The Messerschmitts found 1 pair of trucks, but the targets ahead and behind are far enough away that even if the aircraft search in both directions, they'll burn too much fuel and risk too much exposure time to pursue. That's the theory. The reality is 2 men hiding in a tree line while German fighters circle overhead. 09:01 hours. Baker 7, we're still in cover. Aircraft heading north. North, toward where Baker 8 should be. I'm calculating travel time, exposure time, interception time. Baker 8 was 11 minutes behind Baker 7. If they're maintaining speed, they're still 16 or 17 kilometers north. The Messerschmitts are fast, but they can't spot trucks from that distance, and they can't search every kilometer of highway indefinitely. 0904 hours. Baker 8 to dispatch. We've got visual on 2 aircraft about 3 clicks south. We're pulling off the road. They saw the Messerschmitts before the Messerschmitts saw them. That's the difference. That's the whole goddamn difference. In a standard convoy, everyone's locked in formation. You can't pull off the road without breaking the column. You can't take evasive action without disrupting everyone behind you. You're committed, you're exposed, you're a target. But 2 trucks can disappear in seconds. 0907 hours. Baker 8, aircraft moving south again. We're still in cover. 0909 hours. Baker 7, aircraft gone. No visual. We're back on the road. 911 hours. Baker 8, all clear. Resuming route. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Behind me, I hear Cartwright do the same. Mark it, he says quietly. I'm already writing. Enemy contact 2 aircraft, 0 losses. 2 pairs took evasive action. Contact duration 15 minutes. No damage sustained. In a standard convoy, we would have lost 8 to 10 trucks in that engagement. Maybe more. The Messerschmitts would have had a mile of targets to choose from. Instead, we lost nothing. The radio continues its routine traffic. Pairs checking in. Positions updating. By 10:45 hours, all 40 trucks have completed their deliveries and are heading back. By 1200 hours, all 40 trucks have returned to the motor pool. 0 losses. I sit at the dispatch desk with my notebook open, staring at that number. 0. I've dispatched 43 convoys since August 25th, and this is the first time I've written 0 in the loss column. 0. Cartwright is reading over my shoulder. The 14th pair, he says. Baker 8. They spotted the aircraft before the aircraft spotted them. Yes, sir. That doesn't happen in a tight convoy formation. In a tight convoy, the aircraft spot you first every time because you're too big to miss. Yes, sir. But scattered pairs. Harder to spot, easier to hide, less time exposed. He's quiet for a long moment, then, do it again tomorrow. Different timing, different intervals. I want to know if this was luck or if it's repeatable. Yes, sir. He walks to the door, then stops. Good work, Sergeant. But don't get cocky. One success doesn't prove the system. I know, sir. But I'm already planning tomorrow's routing in my head. Different intervals, different pattern. Same principle. Make us impossible to predict, impossible to target, impossible to kill in bulk. I look at my notebook again. 0 losses. It's a start. For the next 8 days, I run the same experiment with different variations. Each morning, I route a convoy using dispersed pairs with irregular spacing. Each evening, I count the trucks that come back. September 13th, 44 trucks dispatched in 22 pairs, 1 enemy contact, 0 losses. September 14th, 38 trucks dispatched in 19 pairs, no enemy contact, 0 losses. September 15th, 52 trucks dispatched in 26 pairs, 2 enemy contacts, 1 truck damaged, driver wounded, truck recoverable, 1 loss. September 16th, 46 trucks dispatched in 23 pairs, no enemy contact, 0 losses. September 17th, 41 trucks dispatched. First convoy I tried with single trucks instead of pairs. 3 enemy contacts, 2 losses, 2 dispersed. Single trucks don't have backup if something goes wrong. Pairs are the minimum viable unit. September 18th, 48 trucks dispatched in 24 pairs, 1 enemy contact, 0 losses. September 19th, 43 trucks dispatched in 21 pairs, plus 1 group of 3. Odd number. Enemy contact with the group of 3. 1 truck lost. Groups larger than 2 create too much visibility. September 20th, 50 trucks dispatched in 25 pairs, 2 enemy contacts, 0 losses. Total for 8 days, 362 trucks dispatched, 4 trucks lost, loss rate 1.1%. Previous 43 convoys using standard doctrine, 4,781 trucks dispatched, 218 trucks lost. Loss rate, 4.6%. The math is so clear it hurts to look at. Dispersed pairs reduce losses by 76%. 76%. That's not a statistical anomaly. That's not luck. That's systematic improvement in survival rates, and it's consistent across multiple days, multiple conditions, multiple variations of the routing pattern. I show Cartwright the numbers on the evening of September 20th. He reads my log in silence, and I watch his jaw work as he processes what he's seeing. "This is real," he says finally. "Yes, sir. This isn't just better. This is a different magnitude of better." "Yes, sir." He sits down, reads the log again. "You understand what this means. If this data is accurate, and I believe it is because I've been watching the same thing, then standard convoy doctrine is killing men at 4 times the rate of your dispersed method." "Yes, sir. That's not a small difference. That's not an incremental improvement. That's the difference between losing 1 in 25 trucks and losing 1 in 90 trucks. I haven't run that specific calculation, but he's right. Current loss rate of 1.1% means we're losing approximately 1 truck per 91 deployed. Previous loss rate of 4.6% means we were losing 1 truck per 22 deployed. 1 in 90 versus 1 in 22. "We have to take this higher," Cartwright says. "Sir? This isn't a company-level decision anymore. This is theatre-level doctrine. If this works for us, it works for every supply unit in France. And if we're the only ones doing it, we're protecting our men while everyone else bleeds." I hadn't thought about it that way. I've been so focused on our convoys, our trucks, our drivers. But Cartwright's right. There are dozens of supply battalions running convoys across France, and they're all using the same doctrine that's been killing our men. "What do we do?" I ask. "We document everything, every convoy, every contact, every outcome. Build a data package so comprehensive that nobody can argue with it. Then we take it to battalion. If battalion agrees, they take it to regiment. If regiment agrees, they take it to SHAEF. How long will that take?" "Weeks, maybe months. The army doesn't change doctrine quickly." "How many trucks do we lose in weeks, sir?" His face hardens. "That's why we keep running our system in the meantime. We protect our people, while we convince the bureaucracy to protect everyone else's. And if they tell us to stop, if they order us back to standard doctrine, then we have a different problem. But until that happens, we keep doing what works." The next 10 days establish the pattern that will define the rest of September and all of October. Every morning at 04:30, I arrive at the dispatch center. Every morning, I plan that day's convoy routing, dispersed pairs, irregular intervals, no predictable patterns. Every morning, I send trucks out into France and hope they come back. Most mornings they do. September 21st, 47 trucks, 0 losses. September 22nd, 53 trucks, 1 loss, mechanical failure, not enemy action, truck through a rod, driver recovered. September 23rd, 44 trucks, 0 losses. September 24th, 51 trucks, 2 losses. Convoy pair ambushed by ground forces. Different problem, different solution needed. September 25th, 49 trucks, 0 losses. September 26th, 46 trucks, 0 losses. September 27th, 48 trucks, 1 loss, aircraft attack, but driver survived, truck destroyed, man lived. September 28th, 52 trucks, 0 losses. September 29th, 50 trucks, 0 losses. September 30th, 45 trucks, 0 losses. By the end of September, I've dispatched 847 trucks using dispersed tactics. We've lost 8 trucks, 6 to enemy action, 2 to mechanical failure. Loss rate, 0.94%, less than 1%. I keep running the numbers because I can't quite believe them. In August, using standard doctrine, we lost 4.6% of trucks deployed. In September, using dispersed pairs, we lost 0.94% of trucks deployed. That's a reduction of almost 80% in combat losses. 80% fewer men burning. 80% fewer trucks destroyed. 80% fewer manifests I have to mark in red ink. The numbers are so good, I'm afraid they're wrong. I checked them 3 times. I have Miller check them. I have Captain Cartwright check them. They're right. The math is right. The results are real. We're saving lives. But I'm also exhausted in a way I've never been exhausted before. Every morning, I plan routes knowing that men's lives depend on my timing calculations. Every evening, I count trucks knowing that if the count is wrong, someone died because of my decisions. The weight of it is constant. It doesn't go away when I sleep. I dream about convoy spacing and timing intervals and Messerschmitt attack patterns. On the night of September 28th, I wake up at 0230 hours from a dream where I sent out a convoy with 3 minutes spacing instead of 8 minutes spacing, and the entire column burned. I lie in my bunk in the dark, running calculations in my head until I'm certain I didn't make that mistake in reality. Then I get up and go to the dispatch centre 2 hours early because I can't sleep anyway. Sergeant Miller is pulling night duty on the radio desk. He looks up when I walk in. "Can't sleep?" he asks. "Something like that. You've been doing that a lot lately." I pour myself coffee from the pot that's probably been sitting since 2200 hours. It tastes like burned rubber, but it's hot. Just want to make sure the routing is right. The routing's been right for 27 consecutive days, Kowalski. You're allowed to trust your own system. Tell that to the 8 trucks we've lost. 8 out of 847. You know what the rate was in August? I know. Then you know you're saving lives. Stop beating yourself up for the ones you can't save and focus on the fact that you're saving most of them. He's right. I know he's right. But knowing something intellectually doesn't make you feel it emotionally, and emotionally I'm carrying every loss like it's a personal failure. I sit at the dispatch desk and pull out tomorrow's preliminary routing. 48 trucks scheduled. I've already planned the basic sequence. 24 pairs with intervals ranging from 4 to 14 minutes. But I review it again anyway, looking for problems, checking math, making sure there's no pattern that enemy observers could predict. Miller watches me work for a few minutes, then says, "You know they're talking about you, right?" "Who?" "The drivers. They've figured out that convoys are safer when you're dispatching. They don't know why. Most of them don't understand the spacing changes. But they know that when Kowalski's on the desk, they're more likely to come home." I don't know what to say to that, so I don't say anything. "They're calling you Lucky Kowalski," Miller continues. "Started last week. Figure you're some kind of good luck charm." "There's no luck involved," I say. "It's just math." "Math, luck, whatever. Point is, they trust you. That's worth something." Maybe it is. But trust is also weight, and I'm already carrying enough of that. Captain Cartwright calls me into his office at 0830 hours. He's got that look on his face that means something's changed, and I can't tell if it's good change or bad change. "Battalion wants to see our numbers," he says without preamble. "When?" "This afternoon. Colonel Morrison is coming down personally. He wants to understand how our loss rates are so much better than every other company in the battalion." My stomach does something complicated. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That we modified convoy spacing, and it's working. But I didn't go into detail because that's your job. You're the one who figured this out, so you're the one who's going to explain it." "Sir, I'm a sergeant. Colonels don't take tactical advice from sergeants. This colonel will if your numbers are solid, which they are. So you're going to present your data, walk him through your methodology, and answer his questions. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "And Kowalski?" "Bring everything. Every convoy log, every loss report, every piece of data you've collected. Morrison's sharp. He'll ask for specifics, and you'd better have them. I spend the next 4 hours preparing. I lay out my notebooks chronologically. I create summary sheets showing loss rates by week, by convoy size, by route, by time of day. I map every enemy contact and every successful evasion. I build the most comprehensive data package I can because Cartwright's right. If I'm going to convince a colonel to change doctrine, I need more than good ideas. I need proof. Colonel Morrison arrives at 1400 hours. He's older than I expected, maybe 50, with grey in his hair and the kind of weathered face that comes from 30 years in the army. He's brought his operations officer, Major Hendricks, and his logistics officer, Major Patterson. 3 senior officers in our company, dispatch center, and they're here because of numbers I wrote in a notebook. Cartwright does the introductions. Gentlemen, this is Sergeant Kowalski. He's been our lead dispatcher since late August, and he's the one who identified the issues with standard convoy doctrine. Morrison looks at me with sharp eyes. Sergeant, Captain Cartwright tells me you've reduced combat losses by nearly 80%. That's a significant claim. Yes, sir. The data supports it. Show me. I spread out my documentation on the map table. Sir, from August 25th through August 31st, we use standard convoy doctrine. 40 to 50 trucks in tight formation, 50-yard spacing, 1 continuous column. We dispatched 327 trucks during that week. We lost 32 trucks to enemy action. Loss rate, 9.8%. Morrison's eyebrows go up. 9.8%, that's catastrophic. Yes, sir. We were losing almost 1 in 10 trucks deployed. Why didn't anyone report this? I glance at Cartwright. He nods slightly. Permission to be honest. Sir, those loss rates were consistent across all companies. Everyone was taking similar casualties. It seemed like the unavoidable cost of operating in an active combat zone. But I started wondering if it was actually avoidable, so I began tracking detailed numbers. I pull out my analysis sheets. Sir, I noticed a pattern. Large convoy formations, anything over 10 trucks, suffered disproportionate losses. The losses weren't random. They correlated directly with convoy size and formation density. The larger and tighter the formation, the higher the loss rate. Major Hendricks leans forward. What's the attack profile? Air attacks, sir. Primarily Luftwaffe fighters, Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs, conducting strafing runs on Highway 19 and secondary routes. The standard convoy formation creates a target approximately 1 mile in length. Aircraft can spot these columns from considerable distance and have time to set up attack runs. A single strafing pass down the length of a convoy can hit multiple trucks, and because the trucks are maintaining formation, they can't take evasive action quickly enough. Morrison is reading my logs. But you changed something. Yes, sir. Starting September 12th, with Captain Cartwright's approval, I began dispatching convoys in dispersed pairs instead of tight formations. 2 trucks per unit, separated from other pairs by irregular intervals, anywhere from 3 to 15 minutes, no pattern, no predictable spacing. What was the result? I pull out my September data. September 12th through September 30th. 847 trucks dispatched using dispersed tactics. 8 trucks lost. Loss rate, 0.94%. The room goes very quiet. Major Patterson picks up the log sheet, reads it again. This is a 90% reduction in losses. Yes, sir. In 3 weeks. Yes, sir. Why? This is the important part. This is where I have to make them understand not just what I did, but why it works. Sir, the Luftwaffe's attack profile depends on target visibility and engagement time. A mile-long convoy is visible from high altitude and provides a target-rich environment that justifies the fuel cost and risk exposure of an attack run. But dispersed pairs are nearly invisible from altitude. By the time an aircraft spots a pair of trucks and descends to attack altitude, those trucks can take evasive action, pull off the road, scatter, find cover. And even if the aircraft successfully engages one pair, the pairs ahead and behind are far enough away that the aircraft can't pursue without burning excessive fuel. Morrison is studying my route maps. You're essentially making the cost-benefit analysis of an attack unfavorable for the enemy. Exactly, sir. A Messerschmitt conducting a strafing run burns fuel at a rate that limits loiter time. If he has a mile-long convoy to attack, he can hit multiple targets in one pass. Good return on fuel investment. But if he has to hunt scattered pairs that are separated by kilometers and minutes, he burns fuel searching for targets that might evade before he can engage. The math stops working for him. So you're not making your trucks harder to kill, Major Hendricks says slowly. You're making them not worth killing. That's one way to look at it, sir. Morrison sets down the logs. This is brilliant, Sergeant. This is genuinely brilliant tactical thinking. Why didn't anyone figure this out before? I hesitate. Cartwright catches my eye and nods again. Tell the truth. Sir, with respect, I think it's because the doctrine was written by people who think about convoys as logistical units instead of targets. The manual focuses on convoy integrity, keeping vehicles together for command and control. But in an environment where the primary threat is air attack, convoy integrity becomes convoy vulnerability. The tighter you bunch for control, the easier you are to kill. And dispersing them, you lose some command and control efficiency. Pairs operate more independently. Communication is harder, but the trade-off is survival, sir. I can give up a little efficiency if it means 80% fewer men burning. Morrison looks at Cartwright. Captain, you approved this modification? Yes, sir. Sergeant Kowalski brought me the data and a proposal. The numbers supported his theory, and our losses were unsustainable. I authorized a trial run. When the trial succeeded, I authorized continuing operations. Did you report this up the chain? I documented it in our after-action reports, sir. Every convoy we run is logged with formation type and results. But I didn't specifically flag it as a doctrine deviation because I wasn't certain it would continue to work. Morrison nods slowly. He's calculating something. Probably the political implications of a company-level modification to theatre-wide doctrine. How many other companies in the battalion are using this method? Just us, sir, Cartwright says. I wanted more data before recommending it widely. How much data do you need? I answer before thinking, none, sir. The data is conclusive. Dispersed pairs reduce losses by 80 to 90% across all conditions we've tested. If the other companies adopt this method, we'll save hundreds of trucks and thousands of lives. The room is silent again. I realize I just contradicted a captain in front of a colonel, which is not what smart sergeants do. But I'm tired of being cautious when men are dying. Morrison is looking at me with something that might be respect. You're confident in this? Yes, sir. The math doesn't lie. The math, he repeats. You're a mathematics expert, Sergeant. No, sir. I'm a truck driver who counts things. But the numbers are what they are. And they say our old way was killing people unnecessarily. Major Patterson has been reading through my documentation in silence. Now he looks up. Colonel, we should implement this immediately across all battalion units. Agreed, Morrison says. Major Hendricks, draft a battalion operations order. All companies will adopt dispersed convoy tactics effective immediately. 2 truck pairs, irregular spacing, no predictable patterns. Sergeant Kowalski will serve as technical advisor for implementation. Wait, what? Sir, I say, I'm just a dispatcher. You're the person who figured out how to save lives, Sergeant. That makes you the expert. You'll work with each company to implement the new procedures, train their dispatchers, review their routes, make sure they understand the principles, not just the mechanics. Yes, sir. He's gathering up the documents. I'm taking this to regiment tonight. If regiment agrees, and they will because these numbers are undeniable, this goes theatre-wide within a week. You just potentially saved thousands of lives, Sergeant. Good work. They leave. The dispatch centre suddenly feels very empty. Cartwright is grinning. You just changed the war, Kowalski. I just changed convoy spacing, sir. Same thing. Convoy operations are how we keep Patton's advance moving. Safer convoys mean faster logistics. Faster logistics mean he can push deeper and hold longer. You didn't just save truck drivers, you altered the tactical picture for the entire European theatre. I sit down because my legs aren't entirely steady. I just wanted to stop counting bodies, sir. I know, but sometimes that's how you change the world. You stop accepting that things have to be the way they are, and you do the math to prove there's a better way. October 15th. Implementation. For the next 2 weeks, I travel between companies teaching dispatchers how to route convoys using dispersed tactics. It's strange being the expert when 2 months ago, I was just another sergeant pushing trucks through France. But the data speaks for itself. Every company I train shows immediate improvement in survival rates. The numbers are so consistent, it's almost boring. First company, week 1 of dispersed tactics, 0.8% loss rate, previous average 5.2%. Second company, week 1 of dispersed tactics, 1.1% loss rate, previous average 4.9%. Third company, week 1 of dispersed tactics, 0.7% loss rate, previous average 6.1%. Fourth company, week 1 of dispersed tactics, 1.3% loss rate, previous average 5.4%. By mid-October, the entire battalion has adopted the new doctrine. By late October, regiment has approved theatre-wide implementation. By November, every supply unit in France is running dispersed convoys, and the loss rates drop. Everywhere. Consistently. Dramatically. I get a commendation. Captain Cartwright gets promoted. Colonel Morrison gets recognition from SHAEF. Everyone's happy because the numbers work and men are alive who would otherwise be dead. But I'm still running convoys every morning, still marking times in my notebook, still counting trucks that leave and trucks that return, because the war isn't over. Patton is pushing toward the Rhine. The Luftwaffe is still flying, and convoys still need to roll. The only difference is now they come back. I'm sitting in the dispatch centre on a cold December morning, and I'm thinking about numbers. Since August 25th, I've personally dispatched 3,847 trucks. Under the old doctrine, at a 4.6% loss rate, we would have expected to lose 177 trucks. Under dispersed tactics, we've lost 31 trucks. That's 146 trucks that didn't burn, 292 men who went home instead of dying on a French highway. 292 lives. I didn't save them by being heroic. I didn't save them by being brave. I saved them by counting things and refusing to accept that the way we'd always done it was the way we had to keep doing it. The math was always there. The solution was always obvious. I just had to be willing to see it and stubborn enough to act on it. I think about Lieutenant Morrison, who rolled out in that first dispersed convoy, not knowing if I was brilliant or crazy. I think about Captain Cartwright, who let a sergeant rewrite doctrine because the numbers said men were dying unnecessarily. I think about all the drivers who trusted me when I changed the rules, who went into France in scattered pairs because some dispatcher told them it was safer. They were right to trust me. The math proved it. But I also think about the 31 trucks we still lost. The 62 men who didn't come home even with the new tactics. Because no system is perfect. No method saves everyone. And every morning when I route convoys, I know that somewhere, someone might not come back. That's the weight I carry. Not the 292 lives saved, but the 62 I couldn't save. The numbers that still go in the red ink column of my logbook. Sergeant Miller says I did good. Captain Cartwright says I changed the war. Colonel Morrison says I'm a credit to the army. But I'm still just a truck driver from Pittsburgh who learned to count things and couldn't stand to count bodies anymore. The war isn't over. Patton is pushing into Germany now, and the supply lines are stretching longer. The convoys roll every day, dispersed pairs on irregular schedules, and most of them come back. Most of them. I sit at my dispatch desk at 04:30 hours every morning, and I plan routes, and I mark times, and I count trucks. I'll keep counting until this war is over, and then, God willing, I'll never count again. The war in Europe ends on a Tuesday. I'm at the dispatch centre when the announcement comes through. The radios explode with celebration, cheering, music, pure joy transmitted across frequencies that usually carry nothing but coordinates and casualty reports. Outside, men are shouting. Someone fires a rifle into the air. Someone else starts singing. There's going to be a party tonight that will be legendary, and I should be happy. And I am happy. But mostly I'm just tired. I look at my notebook, the final count. August 25th, 1944 through May 8th, 1945. 11,294 trucks dispatched. Total losses, 127 trucks. Loss rate, 1.12%. If we'd used standard doctrine for those 11,294 trucks, at a 4.6% loss rate, we would have lost 519 trucks. 519 minus 127 equals 392 trucks that didn't burn. 784 men who went home. 784 lives saved by irregular spacing and mathematical stubbornness. Captain Cartwright finds me at the dispatch desk an hour later. You're not celebrating. I'm counting, sir. Still? Always. He sits down across from me, looks at my notebook, doesn't say anything for a long time. You know what the final analysis is going to show? He says eventually. When they run the numbers on logistics efficiency and tactical effectiveness, they're going to find that dispersed convoy tactics reduced supply line losses by 85% across the entire European theatre. 85%, theatre-wide, because one sergeant in Normandy couldn't stand to count bodies and decided to do the math differently. It was just convoy spacing, sir. It was never just convoy spacing. It was asking why things had to be the way they were. It was refusing to accept that loss rates were inevitable. It was caring enough to count and stubborn enough to act. He stands up, puts a hand on my shoulder. Good work, Sergeant. You saved a lot of lives. Then he leaves me alone with my notebook and my numbers. I sit there for another hour, looking at columns of figures that represent trucks and routes and timing intervals. But mostly, they represent men. Men who drove through France and Germany and came home because someone changed how they were scheduled to leave the motor pool. The party outside is getting louder. Someone's brought out a phonograph. There's dancing, there's laughter, there's celebration. I close my notebook. Tomorrow, I'll start counting something else. Counting days until I go home. Counting the distance between France and Pittsburgh. Counting the hours until I can stop being a dispatcher and go back to being a truck driver. But tonight, I let myself stop counting, just for tonight.